Hi, welcome to the Recipe Project. I'm a mom, veteran, and lifelong baker. For years, I've saved recipes that I've always intended to bake. So now, I'm finally going through those recipes one by one, baking them as written. If you love cozy, honest baking, then you're in the right place. This is my binder of the recipes that I have been wanting to make over the years. This is only part of them. I have a lot of them on my desktop and on my phone in folders saying we'll bake someday. So I'm gonna start baking these and join me on this journey. The first one that I'm choosing is probably the one I have had saved the longest, or it's a thing that I've wanted to create for the longest time. And it's at the point where I decided I kind of wanted to bake. It was a passion for me. This one is in memory of somebody that passed away last month, and I just had to make this my first one. I was a young airman, and I was at home away from my family for the first time on the holidays. And he was so gracious enough to invite me into his home with his family to share in Thanksgiving dinner with them. And his ex-wife, they were still very good friends. They shared children together and they still got along very well, and in fact worked at the hospital on Moody together. She told me she was going to make this thing called Kentucky Derby pie. I had never heard of it. I was skeptical. But I'm telling you, it was amazing. So I found a recipe that is similar to the one she used. It wasn't exact because I don't have her recipe, but it has all the ingredients that she said it had in it. And I'm going to make my own crust, something I have not done in a very, very, very long time. I usually cheat and I always buy store-bought. So Kentucky Derby pie is a pie that uses whiskey and chocolate and walnuts is the original. A lot of people alter it to do pecans, but I am going to follow the recipe as it's written, and I'm going to see what happens. If I later on decide to alter, I will. So Kentucky Derby pie, I did some research, was made in 1954. From the Kern family, and they are from Kentucky. So, join me. Here we go. We're going to start this recipe. Okay, so for the pie, my first ingredients is going to be all softened. So, I softened cream cheese, and it wants me to add in a half a cup of cream cheese into a mixer, and using the paddle attachment. So I'm going to add my half a cup, so 4 ounces of cream cheese. Then my softened butter, and this is a 1/3 cup of unsalted butter. I have it all into cubes because it's easier to break up when you're mixing. Then a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. So, I'm going to beat this until creamy. All right. Beat this until creamy. It's about a couple minutes. And then after that, I have to add flour and beat on low just until the mixture comes together. for the filling, I'm going to actually brown my butter. Now, it's suggested in the notes if you want a more nutty flavor, which I do because it's a pie that contains nuts. So I am going to start browning a whole stick of butter. So that is 8 tablespoons of butter. I am going to get that browning. Because I like brown butter. And Southern recipes, a lot of them like brown butter as well. So to this, I am going to add my 1 1/3 cup of all-purpose flour. Now I spooned it in here so it's not packed down because you don't want to pack your flour. Adding that in. And so it says here to put it on low just until it comes together. Don't overdo it. Okay, here we go. Watching it until it just comes together. Starting to form a ball here. Okay. Okay. Got a ball in the bottom here. Get all this off the paddle. And it says to take it and put it between a large sheet of plastic wrap covering by another sheet of plastic wrap and then roll it out. Okay. Gotta move this because I'm gonna need the space to work. So here we go. Ooh, that's hard. Don't really have a lot of space to work, so we gotta make do. Here's my plastic wrap. Turn that down just a smidge. Don't want it to get too burnt. We want it nice and toasty. Large sheet of plastic wrap. Okay. And then it's a nice ball. Okay, so nice ball. Roll it out between another sheet of plastic wrap. Okay, let's see how this goes. Okay. Making some sound here. It's been a long time since I've done this. It's starting to peek out. All rolled out here. Of course, I had to stick on the counter. A little bit more. Need to get it about 9 inches for my pie plate, but dough is rolling onto itself, so it got stuck in my plastic wrap. Interesting way to do it. Maybe rolling on the counter would be an option next time, but trying to follow the recipe as it says, thinking it knows best. Because I am just a person. Ooh. It's taking a while. Okay, let's see how far I am off here. Just a little bit, not too bad. A little misshapen. It's like Antarctica at the bottom of the globe. Okay, most of the part broke off there. That's great. Okay, alright, got this. Tuck that back in there. Maybe move this just a little bit. There we go. Okay, so get my pie plate over here. Of course, that's stuck. Let's see how far we are. That over here, out of my way. Okay. We are pretty good. Just fill in my little cracks here where I have some areas that need to have some more crust. Ooh, it's going to be yummy. Okay. That in there. I'm trying to get some of a lip on it. I am not a pro at this, so next time I may do the flour on the cover trick that usually happens with pie crusts. This I found that it keeps sticking between and the plastic wrap keeps rolling under, not allowing the dough to actually roll out. That's what happened to me. So my crust probably is a little too thick. I'm trying to work it up the sides just a little bit here. I think it might be just too thick though. Sometimes to me, crust can be the best part of a pie. So we will see. It's starting to brown. Right. Okay, so this has to go in the refrigerator for 30 minutes to chill. There's no blind baking on this pie crust, which is a little unusual because most pie crusts I remember making back in culinary school were blind baked. But again, that may be because of the different filling that they have in them. And I did go to culinary school, but I have not ever worked professionally using that degree. I got a different job after I graduated. So baking has been just a passion of mine, a decompressor, if you will. It makes me feel good and get my worries out. things go bad, I like to bake because I love to bake for people. I love and share it. I always would take it into work and share it with my coworkers. Who doesn't love home-baked goods? Everybody does. So I'm getting my pie crust fitted in here. I'm doing a little finagling to try to get it just right. And I don't have enough crust really to make a beautiful crimped edge because I didn't roll it out so well. But we'll see what happens. I am going to cover it with some of this cellophane, is the old term, but cling wrap or plastic wrap. And I'm going to put it in the refrigerator. So it has to go in there for a half hour. There is, like I said, no blind baking on this. It's just a cold crust with the filling. So I'm going to put this in the fridge and then we're going to get on to the filling. Okay, now it's time to make the filling. First, we are going to set the oven. So it wants us to bake it at 325, but it says place a cookie sheet in the oven while it's heating up. I always put tin foil on my baking sheets because I don't like to clean up the mess, because especially when stuff leaks out, it creates a hard, sticky syrup that I have to scrub and scrub to get clean. So I always cover it with tin foil. So I'm going to place that in my oven, and I'm going to preheat my oven to 325. Okay, so I did set up my mise en place. Now, I'm not going to lie, I don't always do this. Usually baking is a last minute, I'm going to bake something, I need to de-stress moment. So I'm literally grabbing stuff out of the cupboard and measuring it and throwing it in my bowl. It's better when you do it this way. This is how I was trained, but I don't always have the time to do it, and I don't always, because I just don't want to. But it is a lot easier and it makes more sense. And that way you don't forget something, because I have several times forgot baking soda or baking powder. Very important ingredients in baking. So if you have the time and you're doing a recipe that you haven't done before, do mise en place. It will save you in the end from a lot of sorrow or something that doesn't turn out. So I have all my ingredients here. My butter is browned to where I like it, because I like it where it has a little brown bits in the bottom. All right, for the filling now, we need 2 large eggs. So it says preheat oven and put the baking sheet in there. So we've done that. Now we need to add our 2 large eggs, and it says beat them until they are a little foamy. Not really sure what that means, but we're going to see. They start looking something like foam. Okay. Still looking for foam. It's not all the way locked in there, is it? That sounded pretty bad. Alright, I think we're getting to foam. Okay, so now I need to add in my sugar. So it calls for 1 cup of sugar. So here we go. 1 cup of sugar. Here we go. I'm going to keep it on low here. And then 1/3 cup of flour. Okay. We're adding flour. And then salt, flour in here. Okay. Whoa. Okay. Then salt. So I need half a teaspoon of salt. And if you decide to use salted butter, make sure you reduce that to 1/8 of a teaspoon, because there is a conversion chart when you use salted versus unsalted butter. I always use unsalted butter. So here we go, adding that. Now, I need to add my 8 tablespoons or 1 stick of softened butter. I went ahead and browned it because that is something I like to do when I make recipes, and in the note it tells me that it's going to give you a lot more flavor. So anything to get some more flavor. Adding that in here. I'm turning my mixer off because I will make a mess, and I don't want to do that. Okay, so now that we have that in there, we got to add the vanilla. So for this, I need 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Now, for the whiskey or bourbon, that's going to be next. And it says in here to add 2 tablespoons. I'm not a big whiskey drinker, but I love Kessler's. This is my choice drink. If I do a whiskey and Coke, it's smooth. It's a blended whiskey. It says bourbon or whiskey. I'm going to use Kessler's because I like it, and I think it would add a good flavor because it has a little bit of sweetness and it's very smooth. So it says 2 tablespoons. So I am doing 2 tablespoons. Pouring that in there. Ooh, it smells good. That sugar in there. Okay, so now we go for the chocolate chips and toasted walnuts. Now again, this recipe you can also do pecans, but the original recipe calls for walnuts, so that's what I'm going to use. The original recipe from the current family is walnuts, and that's what I remember Miss Cheryl using. So now I'm going to add my chocolate chips and my walnuts. Okay. Got it. It looks like a cookie dough, to tell you the truth, because that flour in there. Get out my spatula and my pie crust, which should be ready. Okay, it's been a half hour and here's my pie crust. Let me get in my filling. Let me do a quick stir to make sure I've incorporated everything and there's not anything stuck at the bottom of the bowl. Okay, all right, pouring it in. It smells really good. You can smell that brown butter and that sugar and that whiskey. Get all that goodness in there. Okay. Now I'm going to level it out here. You can see the bits of butter in here, the brown butter. Oven's ready. Perfect timing. as if it was meant to be. Okay, so now I am going to put this in the oven and bake it. And it says bake it for about 50 minutes. Now, when I bake a recipe that I've never baked before and my oven seems to always run a little hot, I am going to bake it about 48 minutes, and then I'm going to come and check it, and then I will check it at 50 minutes if it's not done at 48. So let me put in the pie in the oven. There we go. Okay, now I am going to set my timer for 48 minutes. Okay, and then I'm going to let that bake and I'm going to check it out and see what we have. Okay, oven timer's going off, so I'm going to check and see where we're at. About 15 minutes before the timer did go off, I came in and tinted it with some tin foil because I didn't want the crust to get too brown without it cooking all the way through. So let's see what we have. I'm going to take the whole pan out here. I'm going to check it. So I did some research online, and they're saying anywhere around 200 degrees internal temperature in the center means that it's done. So here we go. Let's see what we got. Okay. Ooh. And we are at about 186. Okay. So what I am going to do is put it in for about, I'd say, let's put it in for about 2 more minutes, and then I'm going to check it and see where we're at. Okay, see you in 2 minutes. Okay, oven's beeping again, so let's check the pie. So this will be exactly what it required, what it said it required, which was 50 minutes. All ovens are different, so you always want to check. You don't want to just basically go off that, because temperature outside in your house, everything has something to do with how things bake. Okay, let's check it out. Okay, the pie is reading at 200. There's just a little bit left on there. And they're said that there's going to be a slight jiggle in the center. Yep, we have that. Okay, so this pie is done. And now I need to wait 2 hours. It says 15 minutes up until 2 hours to cool. However, at the top of the recipe says that it's 2 hours. So I'm going to leave it a solid 2 hours, because I know pies like this, I don't want to get that first slice out and it all just lava in. I want it to set firm, so I want a nice beautiful pie. And I am going to wait that full 2 hours, and we will see what we have when we are complete. And I'll be back. Okay, welcome back. It's been about 2 hours. That was the longest 2 hours of my life. I've been waiting to try this pie for several years. Finally, it's right here in my oven. So let's see what happened. Looks pretty delicious. Has a crust on the outside. It looks like it may be a little gooey on the inside, which is what we want. Get a good slice here. kind of small. So I wanted just a test piece. Probably gonna invite some people over later to have some and try it out for sure. Like I said, my crust is probably a little thick because I'm not the best at that. So we'll see what happens. Okay. That looks really good. Let's see what we got. Fork, since I forgot to do one. Okay. Let's see. Got a nice chocolate layer on the bottom. Everything's stuck together. And it does not appear to be lava on the inside where it just runs together. My crust actually doesn't look terrible and it looks done. So that's important. That is really good. It takes me back a long time. Wow, that is, that's good. And I can see where this recipe would be good with pecans if you choose. I like walnuts. I'm from the south would be a pecan place, but I do like my walnuts. Walnuts are big in the north here with our black walnut trees. So I do like this recipe. I got this from Cookie Madness, so thank you for this recipe. And thank you for watching. And I hope I've inspired you to get out your recipes that you've been collecting for years and to get baking and to bring back those memories or just to do a little something for yourself. Join me next time and I'll tackle my next recipe. Thank you and have a great day. That pie was really delicious. I just went and shared some with my husband and he is finishing off the rest of the piece. I also want to thank Mr. Rogers and your family for taking me in that first Thanksgiving. That really meant a lot to a young airman who was kind of floundering. And just all of you out there, just remember that those service members who are away from their homes, they could use a place to go sometimes. And I really want to thank you all. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.